Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the Best Darn Diddly Review Show. This is a weekly podcast for anyone who loves The Simpsons, or ever has loved The Simpsons, hosted by two dudes that grew up on The Simpsons. My name's Miles, and this here is the Rootness Tootness podcast that we're talking about all season, I guess? I don't know. I'm talking like a redneck, because we're talking about guns today, people. Guns! Woohoo! We're from Texas, so obviously we have to, yeehaw when that happens. But I won't be yeehawing alone today, folks. No sirree, Bob, because joining me, as always, is the slickest cowboy in all of the Simpsons world. I'm done with this bit. Joining me, as always, your co-host with the most, Richie the Whiz Kid.
I just got my horse because, you know, we're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area and everyone assumes we just all have ranches with horses.
What's that fancy machine with the wheels, mister? That doesn't look like a wagon to me.
Whoa, we're getting a little weird here. Why don't we all take a step back there, buddy? I'm doing great today, Miles. This is going to be an interesting episode to talk about because I know a lot of people have this one high up on their list, but maybe it's not so high up on WizKid's list. But we'll get into that. I better quit teasing for now. Yeah, let's save that for another kind of podcast, Crumb. And I'll throw it back to you, the man, the myth, the Loudener. It is Miles.
Dude, that's actually so fucking accurate. That's so fitting. Like, usually I just laugh along with those, but like that's both funny and just like spot on. So well done, sir. That might be your best one yet. So I like this episode. I was being a little weird about the gun thing at first, just because we are going to obviously have to talk about guns today. That's going to be,
I reckon,
at least part of this conversation. But I still very much like this episode, and I will say very much like a lot of the episodes that we've talked about in the past, this one does a good job in terms of its, episode from 97 that we're still talking about in 2020 and is very clearly just as relevant it ever has been.
Yeah, the whole scene with him like trying to purchase a gun, I was just like, I'm laughing, but I'm also kind of like doing a double take, like, oh, yep, okay.
Yeah,
fair enough.
If I had my gun, I'd kill you right now. Yeah, well, you don't. And I guess we'll hear your thoughts on what it is that you don't like about this episode, but I'm a fan. For now, let's just go ahead and start from the beginning like we usually do, and I'm sure we will uncover what we need to as we go along. For right now, The Cartridge Family is the episode we're talking about today. It originally aired on November 2nd, 1997. This one does feature a chalk gag where Bart writes, "Everyone is tired of that Richard Gere story," which in 1997 there was a very popular rumor that Richard Gere like stuck a gerbil up his butt, which is apparently a thing in the homosexual community, or I don't honestly know if that's true or just a rumor. I know Lemmy Winks,
no!
Sure, yeah. But that's what that's referencing. And then the couch gag, we see the Simpsons run in all with their butts on fire. But fortunately, their couch is actually a trough. So when they sit down, they are relieved and we get to start the show.
So we go from gerbils in the butt to it burning so bad that they have to, you know...
Butts on fire. Yeah, a lot of butt stuff in the opening credits today.
It's just a normal day for most people.
We get a normal start for a Simpsons episode as well. We actually start on a really fun parody of the old Monday Night Football commercials, which admittedly were actually really cool. Like, I remember when I was a kid, like, being like, or was it Sunday Night Football or Monday Night Football? Is it, that they did those songs? Like, are you ready for some football?
Both.
Was it?
But it became really popular for Sunday night there, like, when we were living together.
Yeah,
Monday night had its own thing too.
Even when we were kids, they used to have, like, celebrity, like, singers that would, like, come on and do, like, the opening credits. And, like, sometimes they were really cool. I think when they started doing, like, more country singers, I was like, oh, this is really lame. But...
We're the only two guys in Texas that don't like country music.
I think that's probably not true, but it feels like it sometimes.
Yeah.
But this is a parody. It's actually a soccer commercial. We get a man, a cowboy specifically, barbecuing a soccer ball, and then he throws the flaming skewered ball at the camera, screaming, "Open wide for some soccer!"
All right.
We see that the Continental Soccer Association is coming to Springfield. It's all here. Fast kicking, low scoring, and ties. You bet!
Hey, Dad, how come you never taken us to a soccer game?
I don't know.
You'll see all your favorite soccer stars, like Arriaga, Barriaga, Argulia, and Pazuza.
I've never heard of those people.
And they'll all be signing autographs.
Woohoo!
The match will determine once and for all which nation is the greatest on earth, Mexico or Portugal.
So I do like a lot about everything that's happening here. For one, just the fact that like Homer doesn't know any of these people, but is so excited about autographs is really, really funny to me. I think a lot of people are guilty about that. I've even been guilty about that in the past. Where it's just like, ooh, somebody famous is here. Let's get something signed or take a picture. But
is that how you got my Pudge Rodriguez autographed tequila?
I actually really like Pudge, but I did wait and meet him.
Yay!
But yeah, so Bart and Lisa are actually like really excited to go to the soccer game because the commercial is so dope. And I also really enjoy here, again, they clearly don't have any idea who anyone is, but Homer immediately is like, oh, I'll kill myself if Portugal doesn't win.
Yep.
Dark joke here when Marge points out that it's hard to believe that this stadium used to be an internment camp.
Oh.
And another just fun little quick joke where Bart yells out to the paella man, "Yo, wing one up here!" And we see the guy is like a barker walking up and down the stands, and he's actually scooping out paella, and he like flings a bowl like a frisbee without spilling a drop, impressively. Paella is actually a very popular Spanish rice dish, and it looks to have the consistency of like somewhere between a stew and a soup. So like you can imagine like tossing that like a hot dog at a ball game is a funny idea.
But he's very good at it, so it's okay.
Very, very good at it.
And then the only one soccer player that everybody knows is actually here, of course.
Pele, the king of the soccer field, now wants you to be king of your kitchen by using Crestfield wax paper.
It's a great product placement ad right there.
I really actually enjoy this joke right here off the beginning because basically the game starts and it's super, super boring. Like nothing is happening. They're passing the ball back and forth. And you see Kent Brockman, who I thought it was kind of weird that he would be the sports announcer for this game, but that he is a broadcast professional. So
what other character do you slide into that slot?
Isn't there like a sports guy at the news station, or am I just completely tripping?
I think it's just that Kent Brockman has now become the news guy.
He's the voice of anything that's newsworthy. Yeah, that totally makes sense. But you can tell he's bored out of his mind, and he's kind of calling the game like halfback passes to the center passes to the fullback, back to the halfback. He holds it, still holding it. But, and like, again, he's like basically falling asleep doing this.
Yeah.
But then we slide over to the Spanish commentary booth, and it's the same exact words, but a completely different story.
Halfback passes to center, back to wing, back to center, center holds it, holds it, holds it.
And it's very funny just because if you've ever like seen, like, it's basically meme worthy at this point, but like Spanish announcers, dude, like props to them and the energy they bring to their jobs. But like doing it in this sense is funny because literally nothing is happening. But like when you hear like goal, it's the one thing that makes soccer fun. Homer, though, is the first one to just kind of voice the opinion of the crowd by literally shouting, "Boring!"
Yeah, and like you don't see it, but you just hear his voice while it's looking at something else.
I think it's still in the commentary at this point, but finally it becomes unbearable to everybody, and Sideshow Mel is the first one that's just like, I can't bear this any longer, I'm leaving.
Yeah, not before me, you ain't.
Now, there's plenty of exits for everyone.
Oh, that's it, you're dead, pal.
And Mo actually attacks Flanders is how this fight starts. Skinner tries to be a responsible adult, I guess, acting like they're children though, because he actually tells them that that's uncalled for, but Lenny isn't having it.
Shut your hole, Skinner.
And at this point, a full-on riot breaks out, mostly because when Lenny hits Skinner, it actually causes Barney to spill the beer that he just purchased all over himself. And, like, basically that caused Barney to go from, like, chill Barney to the Hulk.
You won't like him when he's sober.
Nice. Yeah, so this starts going crazy, but I do really appreciate that, like, even though there's a full-on fight just, like, erupting through the stands, still, Groundskeeper Willie and his, like, Scottish friends are just, like, disappointed in the quality of this riot.
Ah, they call this a soccer riot. Come on, boys, let's take them to school.
Jabba cocknocks, you mucker! And they start actually beating people with crowbars.
All right, so I'm probably going to piss a lot of people off, but this is why you can't have soccer gets too popular in America, because I feel like...
Well, at least not while we have guns legal.
I feel like we would take the rioting a little too far.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know. Yeah, probably. They definitely do in this episode, because from the stadium, we can see that the devastation is spreading citywide. I do appreciate, though, like, outside, people are trying to, like, flee the scene, but somebody valeted their car, and the valet pulls it up, and it's literally on fire. But we can see the rioting is now spreading all throughout the city. My God. Jailbird is, like, robbing Flanders, and Flanders is still just being all polite. Like, excuse me, mister, I think you have my TV there.
I like that Homer wanted to be involved with the rioting before they left.
Oh, I didn't even get to riot.
He just pushes the Scotsman in the back very, very slightly.
And then, like, when the Scotsman bows up, he's like, oh, I've had my fill.
All done.
Yep, bye. Marge is actually, though, like, legit nervous because she's watching out the window and she can see what's happening at the Flanders, and she's worried. I mean, she's got her family there, rightfully so. It's a lot happening outside. I mean, fires and destruction and people fighting. It's going absolutely crazy. But Homer's on top of things. He tells everybody to relax because if somebody tries to get in, he made a burglar alarm that's going to let them know.
Ooh, it's a fancy one, too.
It's like one of those, is it called a Rube Goldberg machine? Rube Goldstein? Rube something machine, where it's like a very complicated machine that does a very simple task. Like, it does all these crazy things. This one involved, like, a pulley system with a goldfish, and the goldfish was supposed to, like, alert the house, I guess, if, like, I honestly, I looked at it a few times, no idea how it was supposed to work. That's probably the joke. But what definitely doesn't help is as Homer's, like, calming everybody by saying, like, just watch the goldfish, we're fine. You see a hand reach in through the mail slot and actually just scoop the goldfish out of the bowl.
Go! It's now mob rule for the next several years, according to Quimby. It's every family for themselves, so...
Yeah,
not looking good for the Simpsons.
Immediately, Quimby just declares, like, the law's not there to help you. That's so funny. But right down, or pretty much immediately after this, we cut to a scene where, I guess Marge probably put her foot down because they've hired a security company, specifically ex-cons, to help secure the facilities.
I want to go back to the soccer stadium because they said the following day there was going to be Monsters of Poetry. Can we go, Dad? I want to know who the Monsters of Poetry are.
The big names, yeah, that's interesting. And is there any poet, like, and I'm legitimately asking, I'm not punching here, I don't know. Are there, like, any poets that are so famous or popular while they're alive that they could fill a stadium?
I don't know anybody that's like a current poet, so the answer to that would be no.
I'm gonna guess no. I'm not trying again. Not that for you poets out there, good for you. You keep on rhyming or whatever.
If you know it, use that iambic pentameter all you want.
Yeah, but I think that's again. It's funny for a lot of reasons, but that's the first thing, and I'm just like a poet filling a stadium. What a concept. But anyway, going back to the next day now, we see that the ex-con security team is there to help sell them a security system. The salesman, though, seems a little bit shisty, you might say. Looks like you called me just in time. This home's not secure at all.
Swipe.
He's literally pocketing things as he's got
right
his back turned to the family. Yeah.
What did I tell you, Marge?
Intruders could come in down the chimney or through the mail slot or even hidden in your groceries. And we get that creepy dun dun dun.
Marge is looking at the grocery bag.
Yeah.
Freaking out.
Did you change the locks when you moved in? Thought not. All the previous owners of this house could still be in here somewhere.
What do you recommend?
Well, a lot of companies would put you in a pretty system that looks good, but doesn't provide any real protection. Homer's like, "Ooh, let's get that." But if you really want
to sleep easy at nights, I'd recommend every door and window with bulletproof lucite.
Wouldn't we all suffocate?
Well, I should hope not.
Ooh, let's get that suffocation thing.
And you can have it all for just $500.
And that's when Homer's like, forget it. Get out of here. For $500, I don't think so. I love the line here, too, though. When the salesman's leaving, he's like, but surely you can't put a price on your family's lives.
I wouldn't have thought so either, but here we are.
But Marge is still upset because she points out, we still need something to protect this family, Homer. And Homer couldn't agree more, so he tells his wife that she's going to have the peace of mind, or that she wants peace of mind, and peace of mind she will have. So he goes to the gun store.
I'd like to buy your deadliest gun, please.
Aisle 6, next to the sympathy cards.
Dun, dun, dun.
And that actually brings us to the end of our first act. So it seems like his security system is going to be a handgun. Which
bang bang
makes sense. Yeah, bang gang. Cool. Opening up with Act 2, we see that the store owner has apparently given Homer a empty gun to swing around or whatnot, and he's pulling the trigger, pointing it everywhere, and he's being so irresponsible. Yeah, as irresponsible as one could possibly be.
I mean, he doesn't have to be careful, Miles. He's got a gun.
That's absolutely accurate. I love that. Whoa there, careful, Annie Oakley. But yeah, so he starts to sell him accessories for his new gun that he's in love in. He'll probably need the holster.
Oh, yeah.
A bandolier.
Maybe.
A silencer.
Mm-hmm.
A Miles, also known as a loudener. A speed cocker.
Ooh, I like the sound of that.
And then he pulls out this big cannon, and this is for shooting down police helicopters.
Oh, I don't need anything like that. Yet. Just give me my gun.
But as Homer starts to reach for it, we see the owner is pulling away and sorry, pal, there's a 5-day waiting period. We've got to run a background check.
5 days? But I'm mad now.
And this is where we get that line I said, because when he's refused the gun, Homer's like, I'd kill you if I had my gun.
Yeah, well, you don't.
So this is another really fun sequence we get right here because Homer is just furious that he has to wait for his gun. He's running through the halls muttering. He actually wakes up Lisa at 3 a.m, and Lisa's like, "Why aren't you in bed?" He finds out that he was kicked out by Marge, so Lisa has no choice but to be like, "All right, go ahead," and puts her pillow over her head.
Pushy kids think they could tell me what to do in my house. Well, I tell you, these parents these days, they don't know how to rear children.
And I really like, as the waiting game continues, we see Homer's actually just sitting out on a lawn chair in his front yard. And The song "Waiting" plays by Tom Petty, or I'm sorry, "Waiting is the hardest part" plays by Tom Petty, and the taunting of Homer here is just really, really funny. Let's see. We start with a Target store, like the Target, like the
Target,
store. Yeah,
the Target sign,
like not Walmart, but like classy Walmart. But the symbol comes by and he's sitting there, like obviously wanting to shoot it. And then we get a row of ducks that walk by, obviously, like much like a carnival game, I guess. A row of bunnies hop the other direction, and the whole time you can see like the sun like rising and setting. So like Homer apparently just sits on his lawn for 5 straight days. It gets even better though. Yeah, yes. Go ahead.
Then you get a really, really tempting target. Patty and Selma go by.
They're riding a bike.
Yeah. And then to tempt Homer even more, Flanders drives by on his moving lawnmower, but twice.
Twice, yeah. He rides once and then back.
So easy.
Why? That's what I was curious about that. Like, why would Ned be other than the fact that it's funny? Like, why would Ned be riding a riding lawnmower down the street?
Because when you want something really bad, Miles, it's almost like the universe just overly tempts you. Maybe Ned dropped something off, like as he was driving by Homer, and then he realized it when he got home, so he had to turn back around the other way. I mean, you don't know what's going on.
With Flanders, I would actually see it more likely that he was just like mowing random neighbors' houses.
Maybe he was mowing Homer's yard because Homer was just sitting in the front yard.
Just mowing around Homer, taunting him, not realizing it that he's really just taunting him even more.
Yeah, exactly. But we didn't bring this up with the Lisa moment in the previous night, but according to IMDb, she's complaining about being woken up at 3 a.m, but her alarm clock actually says 8:50.
Nice.
So she needs to fix that damn clock, Lisa.
Or learn how to tell time. I don't know. The next day, it's been 5 days, and you can see Homer literally like beating on the door before the shop opens, like, you know, just full of anticipation. But it's funny because when we see the shop when he opens the store up, Homer like runs straight past him and actually had to just go to the bathroom really bad.
Yeah, he looks so excited just because he had to pee.
But then he just kind of casually strolls out. Now I believe you have some sort of firearm for me?
Well, let's see here. According to your background check, you've been in a mental institution.
Uh-huh.
Frequent problems with alcohol.
Yeah.
Beat up President Bush.
Former President Bush.
I like that line.
So we see the shop owner actually hits Homer's file with a big red stamp that says potentially dangerous.
Relax. That just limits you to 3 handguns or less.
Woohoo! That's fucking terrifying, dude. That is so terrifying. And the truth of the matter is, regardless of what the gun laws are, there's so many like ways to get around them, especially here in Texas. They do all these gun show laws and shit like that, where like it's super, super easy for for people that should not have guns to have guns.
Like the gun's old enough or something and it's an antique, you can just straight up buy it, I believe, if I remember correctly. Like there's a lot of ridiculousness.
Or if you're at a gun show, they legally can't like sell it to you at like the show, but like it's like basically people will just be like do a private sale in the back type of thing.
Yeah. Just walk around the other side of my tent.
Pretty much, yeah. That's kind of how it goes here. And guns are just everywhere, man. Literally a friend of mine this morning, I'm not going to say who it was or anything because I don't know him that well. I just saw him online. But somebody driving today in the Dallas area got hit by another car. And as he was like trying to like drive over to like get his information, the guy pulled a gun out and pointed at him. So he just drove off. So like that's how fucking terrifying life is and shit.
I've had an AK-47 pulled out in front of me in a church parking lot.
Was there some sort of exotic or super animal nearby that he was trying to hunt?
Man, I'm assuming.
Probably. That's the one that makes the most sense.
I thought it was a toy and I laughed it off like a jackass.
I just wrote a school shooter joke. Maybe I'll tell it one day.
Oh.
We'll work up to that. It's not quite there yet. It's a lot darker than it is funny at the moment.
Oh my goodness.
Oh man. Let's move on. So Homer gets his gun. He gets it back home and he's very excited to show Marge. He actually has her close her eyes so he can show her the surprise, like, I've got a surprise for you. And Marge very, like, excitedly closes her eyes, and we actually get a POV perspective from Marge, so we actually have a black screen for just a second as her eyes are closed, and when Homer tells her to open her eyes, she opens them to see a gun barrel pointed directly in her face.
Ah!
Hey, it's a handgun, isn't it great? This is the trigger, and this is the thing you point at whatever you want to die.
Homer, I don't want guns in my house. Don't you remember when Maggie shot Mr. Burns?
I thought Smithers did it.
That would have made a lot more sense.
Lisa's so, like, nonchalantly, like, she still has her, like, hand on her face, and she's just kind of like, yeah, that's what everyone was thinking.
She's the audience POV.
Bart is taking a little bit different perspective as he's asking to borrow the gun because he wants to scare the old security guard at the bank.
He's gonna rob the freaking bank.
Only if he cleans his room. So I want to pause real quick just to talk about, well, guns for a minute. More specifically, not our views on the subject, but from what I can have gathered from the Simpsons writers' views. So, first of all, we need to say, well, first of all, actually, I'll say again, bad news this week. I was not able to access the DVD commentary on my DVD because this disc is just scratched and I haven't had time to replace it. And I'm very, very upset about that because apparently this is one of the better commentaries on the show, and there's a surprise on it that I was able to find online. So I'm going to talk about that at the end. Make sure I don't forget. There's a teaser for you on that one. But I will say that even though Matt Groening himself has been relatively outspoken about he hates guns, this episode was written by John Swartzwelder. And I would say that for the most part, it actually does a pretty good job of taking a neutral stance. Because really this episode is mostly about, more than anything, the absurdity of an idiot like Homer having a gun. Like, that's what makes this funny. And also, I want to point out that this is also something that had been floating around for a little bit of time at this point. Oh my god, I'm blanking on the showrunner right now.
I was going to say the one guy who I'm stalling for time so that I can type it into Google and remember.
It's the new showrunner for Mike Scully.
Yes.
So Mike Scully is
Scully,
actually the one on. He had been wanting to do this episode for a while, and it was turned down because they did not like they thought it was too dark. And like I said, Matt Groening really doesn't like guns to begin with, but all in all, I would say that the joke here is definitely Homer having a gun is absurd. But if anything, I think that they made the NRA look a little too good. Because I will just flat out say I hate the NRA. And it's not anything to do with because I think they're irresponsible gun owners. It's because they have way too much damn money in politics. But that's not what we're going to talk about. I just wanted to point out that they do try to be bipartisan. They make the NRA look very responsible as we move forward. And Homer is always the one making the buffoon decisions and the bad choices with the gun. So I just thought that was interesting to note that, again, Matt Groening, very much outspoken against guns, but still this episode has a more neutral stance.
Yeah, I can agree with most of that. And my issue with this episode actually does revolve around Homer. So, but again, we will get into that in the third act.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Cool. So we move on and see that, again, Homer is way into his gun, and Marge is way, way not into this gun. She even starts quoting things like, they say that 58%, if you're a gun owner, you're 58% more likely to shoot a family member than an intruder.
TV said that? But I have to have a gun. It's in the Constitution.
Dad, the Second Amendment is just a remnant from Revolutionary days. It has no meaning today.
You couldn't be more wrong, Lisa. If I didn't have this gun, the King of England could just walk in here at any time he wants and start shoving you around. Push, push. Do you want that? Push, push. Huh? Do you?
He's like actually shaking her, kind of like really like bullying her with his opinions on the matter. I do love though it's the King of England. Yeah,
I absolutely love that, and they'll do a callback to that later in the episode too. I think with Krusty or somebody.
Yeah. So they agree, or Lisa doesn't want to deal with it, but Marge is still putting her foot down. She's like, there's no weapons.
A gun's not a weapon, Marge. It's a tool, like a butcher knife, or a harpoon, or an alligator. You just need more education on the subject. Tell you what, you come with me to an NRA meeting, and if you still don't think guns are great, we can argue some more.
That's actually maybe the best joke in the episode right there. Just that little, we can argue some more. That's so funny. We see that they actually do attend the local NRA meeting, and when they arrive, Lou and Eddie are there to make sure everybody's safe. There's a metal detector, so already we're seeing responsibility. Mo, Krusty, and Rainier Wolfcastle all make it through no problem. But when Kearney
shutting
walks
off the
through,
red light every time they walk through.
Right, yeah, it's basically in reverse. So basically they're ensuring that everybody has a gun. And when Kearney walks through and doesn't get a beep, he's actually handed a gun by Eddie. Which would also make me think that either Marge or Homer were going to receive a gun for this meeting, at least, because they only have the one between them. We see up at the front, Lenny's giving a speech about his M16 rifle that he's holding. Assault weapons have gotten a lot of bad press lately, but they're manufactured for a reason, to take out today's modern super animals, such as the flying squirrel and the electric eel.
Marge, are you learning anything?
Marge is just like, we see that this is kind of working like I don't know, they're using their first and last initial, so we get Mo coming up.
Hi, I'm Mo S.
Hi, Mo!
Yeah, so last night I was closing up the bar when some young punk comes in and tries to stick me up.
Whatever did you do, Mo?
Well, it could have been a real ugly situation, but I managed to shoot him in the spine.
Woo, yeah!
Yeah, I guess the next place he robs better have a ramp.
Oh god, that's another great joke.
Oh my gosh.
Very dark, but very, very funny. So, the NRA actually has like a big laugh to that, actually, which is funny. And then Homer just immediately stands up, and he doesn't take the podium, which I thought was weird.
Hi, I'm Homer S.
Homer!
Hi. It seems if a gun can protect something as important as a bar, it's good enough to protect my family. So if you'll have me, I'd like to become a lifetime member of your wonderful organization.
Once again, we hear cheers coming from the crowd, but Marge grabs Homer and pulls him down, and she's very upset. Homer, you can't join up with these gun nuts.
Oh, come on, be fair, Marge. For once in your life, be fair.
Oh. So apparently Marge buckles already on this one, as they're at an indoor firing range where they're all taking shots. Lots of different weapons, which is really, really funny. Like, I think Mrs. Skinner has a grenade, a hand grenade, if I'm not mistaken.
That sounds right. Yeah, I was like, I didn't realize you could take those inside of a gun range.
Yeah. I really like, though, we see Homer shooting some cans, and he's doing quite well. He's hitting all the Coke machines Coke cans and whatnot. But then Lenny comes up and actually turns his shoulders and points him downrange towards his target. And we see that he'd actually been shooting up the squeaky-voiced teen at his concession stand in the gun range. And the squeaky-voiced teen is like, my fault!
I want to say Homer is an excellent shot. Like, I think he misses basically one time in the entire episode.
When he's turning
so his
channel?
Accuracy. No, technically he was hitting the TV. He was just off. It's when he's shooting the dinner plates. He misses one.
Yeah.
But he gets his revenge on that damn thing. But Homer is highly accurate with his gun.
He's also at least, he's either ignoring the law or he's in an open carry state, which we are. We're in a state that literally you can legally walk into a, like, fast food restaurant or pretty much any public place. You can walk in with your gun out and showing, which is very unnerving in certain situations.
But not our samurai swords.
Is that true? I don't even know if that's true. Can you not open carry a samurai sword, but you can open carry a gun in Texas?
I don't think you can. I
No
could be
shit,
wrong on
that's
that.
fucking hilarious, honestly.
I think you would get arrested if you were walking down the street holding the sword on your back. I'm
Let's try
pretty
it.
sure. Oh, God.
I'm just curious. You'll probably get shot by one of the open carry people because they'll think
Probably.
you're crazy.
Yeah.
That's not in the Second Amendment.
I just want my bare arms.
Oh. So we actually see though that Homer walks into the Quickie Mart like spinning his gun on his finger, and immediately Apu is like, "Oh no, don't shoot! Just take the money, get out."
What? Oh, Apu, I would never, or would I?
And he
I've
kind
already
of starts
gone this far.
talking in his head here for a moment.
Wonder what my life would be like if I robbed the Quickie Mart.
And if I'm not mistaken, we get a cutback to a piece of previous footage, right? Like, that's definitely been used before, where Homer is sitting on the front porch of, like, a mansion in a rocking chair while Marge dances in a bikini.
I feel like it felt very reminiscent to me of a dream he had in a previous episode. So
Maybe it's somewhere Marge is on skates and I'm tripping, and I've just seen that as a meme so many times.
I mean, it's fair that Homer likes to dream of living in a mansion where they have everything they want, and Marge is really happy. So, or dancing for some reason.
But either way, this fantasy makes Homer come to a conclusion.
I'll do it. I'll rob the Quickie Mart. All right, put your.
But he, at this point, realizes, oh, I'm already in my car driving away.
It's all right. I'll rob him next time.
Oh, that's good. When he gets home, he's finding more uses for his tool, not his weapon, because Lisa actually asked, "Can you help me get the ball down from the roof, please, Dad?"
Sure thing, honey.
Bang! Bang! And we actually see
get...
the ball roll down the roof and deflate.
I mean, he got it. It's still accurate.
True.
You want me to get the cat down?
No thanks.
I mean, Miles, you're not going to be upset if he shoots the cat, right?
I don't like animal cruelty in general, just because I'm not particularly fond of cats. I don't want them to get shot.
I mean, it's a cat, so is it really cruel?
It really is, dude. There's actually a documentary on Netflix right now called Don't Fuck with Cats. It's very disturbing, but it's also really, really good. It is true crime, so, there's a lot of it. I don't watch a ton of it, but this one I did think was actually really interesting. But just forewarning, it actually does feature a very sick individual doing some very awful things to cats.
Ew, I don't want to watch that.
They do a good job of editing it so you don't see the most graphic of the parts, and it's very, very small. They just give you it for context, but it's actually about the hunt to find that person more than it is about that person.
What they actually
himself.
did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so... I would not. All joking aside, I would not want to watch a pet snuff film.
And that's essentially what this guy was making. Yeah, it's a very interesting. Watching the hunt for this person was very, very interesting. But regardless, moving on, Homer didn't shoot the cat. Instead, he went to practice his marksmanship with his son. He has Bart throwing dinner plates up into the air, and he's shooting them. And as Richie pointed out, he does miss one here, but he gets him on the second shot. He actually walks up to it, stares it down, and shoots it off the ground.
Yeah, it's very action shotty when there's one bad guy left, and you go over there and close your eyes as you pull the trigger.
And this is a great cut here because immediately after that, we cut to the dinner table, and we can see the Simpsons are all eating spaghetti, but out of various pots and pans. Bart's using a muffin holder, and Marge is actually eating out of a dinner glass or a drinking glass.
Does anybody know where all my dinner plates went?
You probably left them at work. On another topic, guess who is picked to host the next NRA get-together? And he actually points his gun, uses his gun to point at himself. Me, he's gonna shoot himself.
Homer, I told you this morning, no guns at the dinner table.
You said the breakfast table.
It's the same table.
Listen, if it'll make you feel any better, I'll put the safety on. Bang! And it actually shoots across the kitchen, and it hits a picture of Marge that's on a bulletin board. The first, or this one, it just, spoiler, there's more shots coming. The first shot actually hits Marge in the shoulder. But then when he tries to, he's like, oh, I guess it already was on, and he tries to fidget it again, ends up shooting again. That one hits her in the neck. And then finally, the best one by far, he sets the gun on the table and it more or less goes off on its own, ends up shooting a knife out of a, cutting board that causes it to spin, fly across the room, and hit Marge directly, the knife stabs directly into Marge's forehead in the picture.
So to be fair, that wasn't the gun's fault, that was the knife's fault.
That was caused by the gun?
I'm just trying to work it out there the way that it would be said in an actual, real life situation, I feel like.
So, I also really like Lisa's line here, though, because she's like, no offense, Mom, but that was pretty cool.
I enjoy that line. Homer, I think you'd agree that I've put up with a lot in this marriage.
Immediately, Homer starts to open his mouth to disagree, but another fantastic joke here. Both Lisa and Bart are giving him the silent, huge eyes, shaking their head no, no, no. So he actually shuts up and lets Marge continue.
But this is the first time since we've been married that I've actually feared for our lives. So I'm asking you, if you really care about me and the children, please get rid of the gun.
So you can tell Homer's really upset about this decision. It's very much weighing on him, but as he normally does, he always sides with Marge or, goes for Marge. So he tells her that he will do it just for you.
I'm a lucky woman.
And I'm a wonderful man. Yes, he is husband of the year material for telling her that he'll get rid of the gun. So in the next scene, we see Bart and Milhouse are reaching up in the freezer in the Simpsons home, and Bart's trying to feel for something, but he can't find them. But Milhouse is kind of getting a little bit impatient.
You said there'd be fudgicles, Bart. Where's the fudgicles?
First, it's Fudge Sickle. And I know they're up here, I just need a better foothold. So they pull out the vegetable drawer, and Bart's about to climb up to the freezer, but when he looks down, he realizes Homer's gun is hiding in the lettuce.
Hello?
And we immediately cut to a scene where Bart handles this so responsibly. He immediately takes the gun and finds the nearest adult where he, is able to give it to them with absolutely no harm done at all, exactly as it would happen in any situation where a child came across a gun owner's gun.
And that's the end of the episode.
And then we get a message saying, be responsible, be irresponsible. No, that's not at all what happens. Bart has decided he is going to be the next marksman, and his name is William Tell Jr.
Jinx!
So Milhouse has an apple in his mouth, and Bart is actually pointing the gun at his head right when Marge walks in the house.
Bart!
So we see, and actually I'm going to stop there for a second to talk about this a bit. Definitely a dark joke. This joke was actually cut from several countries, specifically with Bart's pointing, basically the kid pointing another gun at another kid was considered over the line, even in some U.S. markets. And that was largely, not entirely, but that was largely one of the reasons that this episode was actually banned entirely in the United Kingdom for some time. And also, whenever it came back, this is one of the reasons I really wish I had the whole commentary for this one, because I unfortunately was not able to find anything else. But when the UK did unban the episode, originally, they actually used an alternate ending that involved less gun use, essentially. They toned down the gun use and they cut out this scene. So, just really interesting how controversial this whole thing was in 1997. And again, I don't think it would be any less. If anything, it would probably be more controversial today because this was even pre-Columbine. But gun, there's been a lot. We're in the United States. If you're listening to this, you know that we have a lot, regardless of where you stand on on gun rights, you have to admit that we have more like mass shootings than any other country. It's just like statistics and whatnot. And I'll say I'm not against guns. Like, I'm not particularly fond of them. Like, but I don't have a problem with people having like guns to do, you know, various like hunting. I know is a thing, but like, you know, like I definitely think they're out of hand, and especially like the scene where the gun owner was selling all the accessories. Like, that's not that far from the truth. Like, they do specifically sell things that like make weapons more deadly, and that's really their only purpose. And like, unless you're hunting, like, some exotic, like an electric eel, no, like a fucking bear or some shit, which, you know, is questionable to begin with, like, how much gun do you really need, man?
Yeah, I don't want to, like, make light of anything here, but I definitely feel like growing up in Texas, I'm more used to being in that kind of atmosphere, so it doesn't bother me. And like I'm in the same boat as you on like I don't need a gun, but like it doesn't bother me if people want to have certain things, but there's definitely overkill. I think a lot of people, when you sit down and think of it, there's overkill on how much do you actually need. And yes, I'm kind of desensitized to it because of where we live at, but at the same time, I've been at parties in my college years where somebody's drunk and they pull out a gun and they're trying to disassemble it in front of me, and I'm like,
I'm so not cool with this. Yeah, no, I definitely think there should be like a lot more restriction, and like frankly, I just don't think people should be carrying guns around like most places. Like, if you're not taking your gun somewhere where you like are planning to use it, like I don't think it's one of those things like, well, you never know when you're gonna need it. And I know for sure somebody is gonna tweet at me about the fucking church shooting and shit, but like that's such a fucking exception to the fucking rule, and like.
How do you know? Because you can take it wherever you want to. Like I don't know. That's such a hard debate to get into on a Simpsons podcast. But like either way, there's extremists no matter what the rules are for stuff like that. It's just it's overkill.
But I more or less brought all that up. You know, we do share our opinions on things, but I just wanted to really point out that how controversial this episode really was at the time. Again, being entirely banned by an entire country is not a common thing with a cartoon show.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it is now, but it wasn't then.
And I shouldn't have used the word that I used to say that it's over the top. That was probably a bad choice of wordage.
Did you say overkill?
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, that's not funny, you jerk.
Man, you gotta laugh about things, bro. It's the world we live in. I mean, it doesn't mean you can't make jokes about things, even if it is a serious topic. And on that note, let's get back to The Simpsons.
Okay. Oh, Homer sees... we left off with Bart holding the gun at Milhouse and Marge gasping, yelling at Bart.
And when Homer sees like, oh, I see Bart gets to have a gun.
You lied to me. You promised to get rid of this gun.
I put it in a safe place, Marge. I mean, what are the odds the boy would look at a vegetable crisper?
To be fair, I mean, that's a pretty good point.
Yeah, but dude, like, we know that Maggie has a history with guns, and that's within range of her finding it.
Yeah, but she was accurate with the gun as well.
Fair. That one, I'm definitely like, come on, dude. Different. Like, honestly, it'd be better in the freezer.
That's true, but I mean, Maggie can reach anything because she has magic abilities.
Powers, of course. Yeah. And I mean, really, she doesn't even need a gun.
Nope. That was just to prove a point.
She'll have Vada Kedavra a bitch right away.
Ooh. How could you? Of all the terrible things you've ever done in your life, this is the worst, the most despicable.
But Marge, I swear to you, I never thought you'd find out.
Mm-hmm. Until you decide what's more important, your gun or your family, we can't live in the same house. Come on, kids.
And Marge actually takes the kids away, like they drive off, and Homer's just frustrated. So this is the thanks I get for protecting my family. Then go, I'll be just fine.
Slam.
Homer sees Milhouse is still there with the apple, and Homer's like, do you know how to cook dinner?
Do I?
And Milhouse, to be fair, starts cooking, which is actually really funny. He actually just starts rummaging through pots and pans, so we don't really know how it ends out. But we do know that does end Act 2, and we are going to move on to our third act right now, where Marge is knocking on the door of her sister's apartment, trying to see if they can basically crash there. But Selma is, like, all dressed up. And even though she's very excited when Marge tells her that she's left Homer, when asks for a place to stay, Selma just hands Marge a pack of matches for a place called the Sleep Easy Motel. She says she woke up there once and it seemed nice.
Why can't we stay here?
Well, we have a gentleman caller.
Hey, this TV's not broken, it's just unplugged. What the...
And we can see that the TV repairman is very much in a trap at this point.
And they slam the door so the kids can't see.
Yeah.
Or Marge.
But it's fine because it's female on male sexual assault, so it's still funny.
That was a fair point there, Miles.
We see, with the door slamming, back at the Simpsons' home, where Marge and the kids are not, Homer is getting ready for the NRA meeting, which now stands for nachos, something and alcohol.
Rifles.
Was it rifles?
Rifles?
I thought, well, that's what it actually is, the NRA. I thought it was something else.
I know.
Damn it, now I can't remember. Either way, it's a party is all that's going on here, and Homer's very excited about it. Doorbell rings, and Moe walks in.
Hiya, Homer. I brung you a big bag of irregular Oreos.
And when he dumps them out on a tray, he grabs one.
I don't see what's wrong with this one.
Crunch.
Oh.
I really wonder what happened to that Oreo. I have heard of this as a prank, and this would definitely be like one of the grossest things imaginable. I don't know if you've heard about this, but there's a prank where you basically take people's Oreos, remove the cream filling, and then replace it with, like, white toothpaste. Yeah. That's what I thought of when I saw Moe bite into it, but it seemed worse than that.
Yeah, it seemed much worse than that.
I don't know, though. Mint and chocolate. I guess now that I say that, mint and chocolate is literally a thing, so maybe I'm, like, overreacting.
But if you just straight up eat toothpaste, it's not going to be good.
Great. It's not going to be great. Though, to be fair, I do often feel the urge to brush my teeth not too long after eating Oreo, so you're just cutting out the middleman.
Sure. You can go ahead and try that out, Miles.
As Marge and the kids arrive at the hotel, we see that it is a very sleazy motel, so much so that it advertises itself as such, and they actually walk by 4 prostitutes on the way into the lobby.
Looking for a good time, sailor?
And Bart's like, I certainly am.
No, you're not.
And Marge grabs him and pulls him in and then reassures the prostitutes.
He's really not.
We see back at the Simpsons' home, we are getting this meeting into full swing, and Moe is giving a presentation on, with just a few minor adjustments, you can turn a regular gun into 5 guns.
I mean, it's a pretty fancy-looking machine there.
At this moment, though, Homer comes up and brings in some more snacks for everybody, and he has a beer for himself, and he actually takes his handgun and shoots it open, and then asks, does anybody else want a beer? But going back to the impartialness of this episode, immediately every member of the NRA is absolutely appalled by this. When they ask him, you can't do that, he's like, yeah, sure you can. I use it for everything. And he demonstrates by turning on the television by shooting at the dial, which could only possibly work a couple of times.
Miss every vital organ every single time you fire it on the TV.
But, it gets, like I said, they do try to make it so only Homer is the idiot in the episode, because, immediately everybody is getting onto him. I've never seen such recklessness.
You might have hurt someone.
Are you some kind of moron?
Yeah, but... Hey, yuts! Guns aren't toys. They're for family protection, hunting dangerous or delicious animals, and keeping the King of England out of your face.
That's a great callback. And then Moe is like, Homer, I need your membership card, please. And I'll need to remove your tattoo.
I didn't get one yet.
Ah, rats. He pulled out a cheese grater, dude. He was going to
No.
cheese grate off his tattoo, man. And he was disappointed that he didn't get to. And maybe just that would have been the worst part, but definitely the cherry on top of the shit sundae is Homer is told that since he's no longer a member, he'll need to wait outside until the meeting is over. And remember, the meeting is at his house.
Always getting kicked out of secretive meeting type things.
Yeah, the NRA just became the No Homer Club.
Exactly.
And they to be fair too, Homer just sits out there. He looks very glum as he sits on his front porch while everybody inside is having a super good time. And Bart and Lisa are about to have a really good time because they're very excited when they learn that their new place they're staying, the hotel, has a pool, and immediately are like, "Mom, can we go swimming?" But as they look over the balcony, Marge can see that somebody is scooping out a dead body from the deep end.
Not right now, dear.
And just to clarify, it was very clearly not somebody who drowned in a pool by swimming. It was a man in a suit who was very likely shot or forcefully drowned.
Very accurately put, Miles.
When they get inside, they're very excited or the kids are very excited about things like the coin op everything, including things you might expect, like the television or the vibration function on the bed. But one of the funnier ones, it's even the Bible is coin operated.
Whap!
Lisa's reading it and it shuts itself.
The Bart's got the right idea here, Miles. They got to make sure they're up in time the next morning to go about their day. So what do?
He actually calls the front desk and requests a 3 a.m. wake-up call for every room but this one. And I like his little ending here, too, because he chuckles to himself and is like, I love trying out new material on the road.
I figured you'd enjoy that line.
Back home, we see that Homer has used his gun as a light switch, leaving him in darkness because it only works the one way. And at this point,
a metaphor, perhaps.
At this point, you can see that he is coming to terms with how maybe he did not make the right decision because he realizes the gun cost him everything: his wife, his kids, everything but his precious, precious gun.
Oh.
He actually shoots out the last light in the house at that point, and then he's left completely in the dark. Back at the motel, we're still looking around the room, and Bart actually finds out that there's a camera in this, or he's like, "Hey, is there a camera in the ceiling?" But we hear a voice yell back, "No, go back to sleep."
Which it's weird that cameras can speak like that.
Lisa's stuck on a bed that won't quite vibrating.
Why won't it stop?
Honey, it'll be morning soon. Try to get some sleep. But just then, the door pops open suddenly, and we see that Marge, who, by the way, is actually sitting on a chair at the door with a stick, ready to fight off any intruder, because that's how sketchy of a place they're in. But fortunately, it was just Mayor Quimby and some woman that wasn't his wife. "Oh, I'm sorry. Are you planning to stay the whole night?"
Yes.
All right. Vote Quimby. He shuts the door and leaves.
That says something that Marge is willing to stay at this place rather than stay at home with Homer and a gun.
Right? I mean, honestly, though, you just say Homer and a gun and you're like, oh god, how has no one died yet?
Yep.
And Marge knows Homer better than anyone. However, in this moment, we do see Homer pulls up to the hotel, and he's searching desperately for his wife and kids, but he keeps
They gave him a matchstick thing, so you could tell he went to Patty and Selma's.
Yeah, good point. That he had to have gotten the info, which it's surprising that they would have told him. He must have done something humiliating. Or
they're still trying to get some for that repairman, so they just wanted him gone.
Alone. Yeah. Homer opens a few doors that are not the right door. One of them he opens up and is like, "Ooh, sorry," but you just hear Quimby yell back again, "Vote Quimby."
Down here, Homer!
"Oh, Marge, there's so many things I want to yell to you."
"Come down here."
"Okay." He wants to yell out this entire conversation. Homer starts to beg. He says, "Honey, please come home. I need you. It's dark in the house, and I'm hungry and lonesome, and there's no one to hear my various witty remarks."
What about the gun?
"It's gone for good, Marge. I finally realized what's the point of having a gun for protection if you've got no one to protect."
Oh, homie. Come on, kids, we're going home.
From the vibrating bed still, you can hear the cheers
Yay!
coming. Downstairs, though, in the lobby, as they're checking out, we see Quimby is getting a bucket of ice, and Snake bursts in the door holding a knife.
Quimby was a little quick there.
Yeah, true. He grabs a knife, though, and holds it, or Snake takes a knife to Quimby's neck, holding him hostage.
Right. Everybody hands up. You, give me the cash drawer.
Do what he says. I'm too rich to die.
Freeze, bad guy.
And Homer whips out the gun that he told his wife he no longer had.
Twice.
Yeah, absolutely. And we get this little confrontation here between Snake's like, "Okay, man, don't shoot," and then Marge immediately confronts him.
Homer, you said you got rid of the gun. You lied to me again.
I know I said that, but what I secretly meant was...
Yoink! Ho ho! Ha ha ha!
Joke's on you, buddy. There's no bullets in that thing. And he actually shakes the box of bullets at him.
Yo, give me the bullets.
Even though he knows there's no bullets, he gets scared and is like, oh, okay, don't shoot.
The power of a gun.
Right? They're intimidating. So, as Snake begins to load the weapon, the entirety of the Springfield NRA pops through the door and points their guns at Snake, all yelling in unison, "Drop it!" And Snake actually drops it and then grabs the money, though, still, and runs out the door. Yeah. How did you know we're being robbed?
The clerk here pressed the silent alarm and we picked it up on our scanners.
Did anybody stop the robber?
No, I don't think so.
Homer picks his gun up off the floor and he looks up at Marge. He apologizes and he actually asks Marge to hold onto it for him because he felt this incredible surge of power like God must feel when he's holding a gun. So please, Marge, get rid of it for me because I know I'll just lie to you again.
And again.
So we see Homer hands his wife the gun, and it looks like Marge is about to throw it into a, trash can, but she sees herself in a mirror, and she does a little, spin and does a brief little pose with it, and we actually see she drops it into her purse and walks out of the hotel, and that brings us to the end of our third act and to the end of the episode. Richie, is there anything else that you want to talk about or you want to say about the Cartridge Family? That's one of my things.
Don't even get me started.
This title is a reference to the Partridge Family from 1970, but we're talking about the Cartridge Family.
If only we had director's commentary to bring that up for us. Yeah, I don't like the ending to this episode. When I was rewatching it, I remembered how I felt the first time I saw this, and it bothers me how much Homer lies to Marge in this episode, especially the second time when they're in the hotel room and he said they have the sweet music going and he makes the comment about what's the point of having a gun for protection when you don't have a family to protect. And it's like he's being sincere in that moment, you believe, because he's not capable of not being sincere right there, but then he's not because he completely lied to her. And it's just always bothered me. I feel like it's a little too much out of character, and I feel like that's why he gives the speech at the end to say, this gun just has a hold on me, I feel so powerful, blah 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 blah. And then they had to go even further because he gives Marge the gun, he grabs Maggie and straight up just walks out with the kids. Before she's even responded, he's just later and walks out. And then they do the whole thing with Marge. The only reason they do that last thing with Marge is to make it okay that Homer just did everything he did in the entire episode. And Marge even feels that empowerment when she was literally a cop a few seasons ago and had a gun and never had that kind of power trip with it. So I know it's putting too much stock into this last scene, but I don't like the way this episode ended. This is a very funny episode. There's a lot of great moments, but the end of this episode just rubbed me the wrong way.
I think that's all a very valid point, actually. It's something I didn't really consider, especially with Marge being previously a cop, but it did feel a little bit like it was like trying to
hit the reset.
Yeah, well, obviously it has a reset. We always get a reset, but it was a pretty extreme reset, pretty out of nowhere, like you said, with her power trip and whatnot. You talked about the commentary a little bit, if only we had some, right? And like I said, I wasn't able to access all of it, but there is a clip of it available online that I was able to get to because it's a very special clip, Richie. This episode is written by John Swartzwelder. And who do we know has famously never done a commentary track for The Simpsons?
Please don't tell me that he did this one and we don't know what he says.
John Swartzwelder, that's correct. Yes. And also, we might have even noted in the past, Matt Groening once asked him directly, or no, I'm sorry, it was David Merkin was the one that had asked him to just record himself refusing to do a commentary track so they could play it on the commentary track, and at least prove that, like, he was real, so to speak. Well, Mike Scully decided to take it one step further on this one. Is everybody else on the commentary, including Matt Groening and even Yardley Smith was on there, but Mike Scully decided that he was just going to straight up call John Swartzwelder during the middle of the recording of their commentary track. So he did. And he answered. And he talked. And Matt Groening was immediately just like, you've got to be kidding me, because like they had tried so many times to get him on, but they immediately told him like, hey, we're doing this recording. Are you cool with that? And he's like, yeah, all right. He just kind of like passively went along with it. He did almost immediately say like, how much am I getting paid for this? Which I thought was really, really funny. He talked just briefly, honestly, more than anything, he talked about the fact that he was at home cooking a steak, and he, basically when asked about this episode, his response was like, yeah, I remember it. I think it was pretty good. But the best part, in my opinion, because they talked about like, well, at least we have proof now that you are real, and our fans like know that you're real, and like you've talked and whatnot. And he agreed, and then ended the call by saying, "Too bad this isn't really John Swartzwelder." So the legend continues, but I thought that was a fascinating tidbit of information that we probably have a now commentary track with an unverified John Swartzwelder.
That's a good story. I like that.
But that is going to do it for this week's Best Darn Diddly Review Show. Make sure you follow Richie online. He is at @thewiz_kid23.
Make sure you follow Miles at Mr. Most Days Off. He's trying this comedy thing. I mean, he's posting nonstop. If you want to hear comedy, you look up Mr. Most Days Off. But then after you're done looking for comedy, look for the serious podcast at Best Darn Diddly. That's DIDDL. We're always 100% serious on this show.
Always 100% serious. And we'll be even more serious next week when we come back to review the episode Bart Start.
Listen, you guys have to listen to this podcast. If you don't, the King of England could just walk in here at any time he wants and start shoving you around. Do you want that, Miles? Huh? Do you?
No. And until next time, be cromulent to each other.